Where does the kicking battle stand and the punting one?
Well, I think both of them are even from the standpoint of the reps are about balanced out. We haven't had but the one field goal, so everything's been the extra point. But as we know in this league now, that 33-yard kick is very important. So I think from a place kicking standpoint, I think both those guys are trying to fight it out. We're trying to keep the reps even. That's why Coach decided last week we would rotate them every play, and to try to give them there. From a punting standpoint, it's still one of those scenarios where they're pretty much even from a rep count, which is kind of how you want it to be, to get it to a point where you can judge it at least fairly from a standpoint of numbers. But I don't see anybody stepping forward, and I think that's the thing we want to do is see somebody just take it over in both positions.
So is that kind of a negative that, how do you look at the fact that no one, almost a month into camp now, nobody's taken the...
I don't think I look at it as a negative from a standpoint of it's still good competition, but you'd like to say, hey, this is the guy, and I don't know if we're ready to do that yet.
With Antonio Callaway, we've seen him in the return game.
Yeah.
Kick and punt return. Where is he at in regards to that?
Really, it's just been the punt return because he had, Antonio's done everything we've asked him to do. We've got to do a little bit better job of getting his pocket cleaner. But the 2 or 3 times he has caught the ball, he's been able to show that he can make a first guy miss, which all great returners have to do in this league. He's catching the ball good, in terms of that. So, we just got to keep it's a work in progress. Hopefully, game reps continue to grow for him as well.
Is Jabril still in the mix there as well?
Absolutely, yeah. As evident by last week, they rotated to, every other punt, and Pep's been getting the kickoff return stuff for the most part in the first half, and in the second half, we've been kind of letting the young guys get it.
Coach, obviously you knew or had some familiarity with Zane Gonzalez when he took the job here. But how did it come to be that Ross Martin ended up here?
I'm sorry?
Ross Martin? Did you have any kind of
Ross
connection?
was a guy that they had worked. Ross has been a guy trying to make it in the league, so you always keep your eyes on those guys. But Ross was a guy that I think had actually had a workout here before and then worked out when I got here. And, he came in and won the job that day from a standpoint of being a guy that Coach and John wanted to put on the roster and give us a chance to have a competition.
What have you learned about Ross since he's been here with you?
Very, very meticulous in what he does. He's really good with what he wants to have a plan every day, and his work ethic's been impeccable. And I see him as a guy that's really right on the cusp of being a guy that could probably kick in this league, hopefully pretty soon for him. But I think he's a guy that, he can make kicks, and his kickoffs have gotten better from what we needed him to do.
When you look at that punting situation, if it's even, if it stays even or close to even, does the fact that Britt punted for so much longer, is that something that would tip the scales?
Well, I think there's a lot of things that tip the scale. Operation times, holding, and all those things factor in. You always like the veteran guys, but you can't ever, as a coach, get locked into, hey, this guy's been doing it for a long period of time. You just got to keep an open mind with it, and that's pretty much what I've been able to do all my career in terms of having competition at very specialist spots, in that respect. So you can't say that a veteran has it over the young guy, although a lot of times incumbents are the known guys. But, this other kid, Justin, was in Green Bay for 16 games last year, so he obviously earned some spurs there.
When you take over, I know you've been coaching special teams a long time, but when you move to a different team, how long does it take to get to know not just the punters and kickers, but the guys who are going down and cover, the guys that are blocking for your...
Well, you get to know them really once you get to training camp. You kind of get a body of work and know who they are from a work ethic standpoint in spring ball. And then once you get to this time of year, seeing them in that meeting in the mornings, seeing their faces, knowing where they sit so you can make eye contact with them, and watching them in their work ethic and how they do on the field is a big part of getting to know them as a person. And then obviously the playing time and stuff like that they get needs to be productive. But you learn more about them obviously when they got their pads on, and then you learn a lot about them when they're on the game.
So generally, how do you feel these the coverage teams are, especially?
Well, I don't think we did a great job last week, but I was more disappointed in the sky punt part of it, since we had down 5 balls inside the 20 the week before, and I thought we missed those opportunities to help really create the field position from that standpoint. But you know, some young guys have got to emerge, and they've got to kind of take their shot, we call it. When they get in a position to tackle, we need to see them do that, and that's what we didn't do last week with that second half group.
I know you don't have an easy job, but has it gotten somewhat easier as your career has gone on, in that teams are more attentive to special teams and players may pay more attention to it?
Good question. I think for the most part, you still deal from a special team standpoint of guys that didn't play special teams in college. So you've got a clean slate. That can be good or bad, but you've got to try to mold them into what you want. I mean, that first rounder has to sit in that room a little bit. You know, Corbett's great on field goal protection. As good as he is, he's also a backup snapper type guy. So, you know, you kind of find some of those guys that are, you know, in tune to it, but most of them don't play it in college. So you've kind of got to just kind of get them back into the mindset of, hey, it's like high school football again. You got to play on kickoff. You got to play on punt. So that's the fun part of it, but it's also the challenging part because they pretty much don't have any concept of it.
Right. So along those lines, what kind of a visual aid is Josh Cribbs to have out there? A guy who succeeded in special teams and who knows, he could end up being a Hall of Famer as a special teamer.
And should be. I would vote for him if I had a vote. Both Sam and Josh are unique to me. Question was about Josh, so I'll say been excellent because I can turn my back and let him tell him what I want to do, and he does it the same with Sam. So from a comfort standpoint, that's great. And I think anytime you've got former players like Sam and Josh in your room, because, hey, they can get it from anybody. We don't care where they get it from, me, them. We don't care as long as they get it, right? So I think having Josh along with Sam as former players in the room really, and both of them were guys that played and were core special teams guys along with being starters in other various roles. Like when Josh took over the Wildcat, he was still doing his kicking role. Sam was a starter as a safety. So it's beneficial to me to have both of them, plus both of them good computer skills and good breakdown film, and got a lot of ideas. They're young still, so that's the interesting part about it. No, we can't do that much because we got to focus on this. But I like that part of it too, because you can give them a task and they perform it.
We always assume that rookie linebacker is going to have a big role on special teams. Does that cover Jannard Avery, and what have you seen?
I've seen a guy that can run, a guy that has a willingness to do things the way you want him to do it. He's going to have some growing pains like all rookies do, but you know, when you ask him to do something and you give him the reps in practice that he needs, the injury situation set him back a little bit of time, but now he's kind of getting back into it, and you can see his growth a little bit. And you know, last week he started on kickoff. He got 14 punt reps. So, you know, next phase is kickoff return a little bit maybe this week, and, you know, just trying to build his resume of some preseason work so you got something that he can teach, because you can teach him with, because I think he's a guy that gets it a lot too by repping it.
How would you describe his body type? Because it doesn't seem like it's quite the same as everybody else at that spot.
The guy would kill me if I said it, but you know who I'm thinking about, right? He wears number 92, used to in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
When I first saw him cover a punt, James played left tackle for us. When I first saw him cover a punt out here in OTAs, just his way he ran with those big legs and big upper body, I mean, he reminds you a lot of a guy that has the potential to be a dynamic player in whatever you know phase he's playing on.
When I've asked other guys about him, they say that he does everything like 100%. There's no, he doesn't do anything slow. He just attacks everything.
I would agree with that, and when he makes a mistake, he usually makes it 100%. You know, which might not be right technique, but at least it's 100%. And then shoot, that you gotta love, especially as a linebacker.
That tire drill that you use, I don't remember other coaches using that.
The donut tackle deal?
Talk about that, what that...
Well, what that gives you early on when you don't have pads on, it gives you the ability to sink your shoulder and feel that contact point without it being body on a body.
Okay.
And then it also, for us, we pay more close attention to where the eyes are in relationship to that fit, and then what are they doing with their arms. Because a lot of guys want to one arm tackle or no wrap tackle. So
Yeah.
that's why we do that. Plus it takes a little bit of stress off of a guy having to tackle a guy, because they're going to get enough of that in those 4 preseason games, we hope.
And no rep tackle. I mean, I see DBs just try to knock the guy down all the time.
There's a million ways to tackle. We still think we got to use our arms. That's why they're there, right?
Yeah.